केत दिसे सुंदर सारा दुनिया रे केते सुंदर तुम्हें मधुर सुंदर आखी मोरा तुम्हें मधुर सुंदर आखी मोरा जीव प्रिया हसी देखा दिया गोपन मारा मेरा ही तुम्हें जब प्रिया हसी देखा दिया गोपन मारा मेरा ही श्री मधुरा झुरी अनिबारा तनु मन हराई श्री मधुरा झुरी अनिबारा तनु मन हराई खीरे चरण धौ तपाई मन जली गला वेदनिया रे तुम आगमन चाही शुभ शंख बाजे मंदिरे तब आजी शुभ शंख बाजे मंदिरे तब आजी घेन मो बंदन तब रचन राजी घेन मो बंदन नव रचन राजी पलकर प्रीति पुलकर ताती एड़ी जाऊ तानु छुई पलकर प्रीति पुलकर ताती खेली जाऊ तानु छुई जीवन फूल मो फुटी लोटी पड़ो बेचारु चरण चाही जीवन फूल मो फुटी लोटी पड़ो बेचारु चरण चाही लुह झरी गला आखिरे धौ तपाई मन जली गला वेदनिया रे तुम आगमन चाही लुह झरी गला आखिरे चरण धौ तपाई चरण धौ तपाई जय गुरु। बसंत आसी फगुण सकाळे कुहू कुहू करे कोकिला बसंत आसी फगुण सकाळे कुहू कुहू करे कोकिला नरम खरारे धरा परसई फुटी अछि बने बौड़ नरम खरारे धरा परसई फुटी अछि बने बौड़ बसंत आसी फगुण सकाळे कुहू कुहू करे कोकिला ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପରତଇ ଫୁଟି ଅଛି ବନେ ବଉଳ ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପରତଇ ଫୁଟି ଅଛି ବନେ ବଉଳ କଳ ପତର ଆସନ ପକାଇ ପ୍ରିୟତମ ମୁଗ ବସି ଅଛି ଚାହିଁ କଳ ପତର ଆସନ ସଜାଇ ପ୍ରିୟତମ ମୁଗ ବସି ଅଛି ଚାହିଁ କେବେ ମୋ କୁଟୀରେ କରିବ ବିଜୟ କେବେ ମୋ କୁଟୀରେ କରିବ ବିଜୟ ଜନମ କରିବ ସଫଳ କେବେ ମୋ କୁଟୀରେ କରିବ ବିଜୟ ଜନ କରିବ ସଫଳ ବସନ୍ତ ଆସିଛି ଫଗୁଣ ସକାଳେ କୁହୁ କୁହୁ करे କୋକିଳ ବସନ୍ତ ଆସିଛି ଫଗୁଣ ସକାଳେ କୁହୁ କୁହୁ करे କୋକିଳ ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପରତଇ ଫୁଟି ଅଛି ବନେ ବଉଳ ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପରତଇ ଫୁଟି ଅଛି ବନେ ବଉଳ ଆଖି ନିରଥାରେ ଧୋଇ ବିଚରଣ ନବ ମଲ୍ଲିମାଳେ କରିବି ବରଣ ଆଖି ନିରଥାରେ ଧୋଇ ବିଚରଣ ନବ ମଲ୍ଲିମାଳେ କରିବି ବରଣ କହିବି ଅକୁହା କାହାଣୀ କେତେ ମୁଁ କହିବି ଅକୁହା କାହାଣୀ କେତେ ମୁଁ ଗୋପନେ ରଖିଛି ସଫଳ କହିବି ଅକୁହା କାହାଣୀ କେତେ ମୁଁ ଗୋପନେ ରଖିଛି ସଫଳ ବସନ୍ତ ଆସିଛି ଫଗୁଣ ସକାଳେ କୁହୁ କୁହୁ करे କୋକିଳ ବସନ୍ତ ଆସିଛି ଫଗୁଣ ସକାଳେ କୁହୁ କୁହୁ करे କୋକିଳ ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପରତଇ ଫୁଟି ଅଛି ବନେ ବଉଳ ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପରତଇ ଫୁଟି ଅଛି ବନେ ବଉଳ କେତେ ଆଦରରେ ରଖିଥିଲ ପାଶେ ପଠାଇ ନ ଦେଲ କର୍ମ ବ୍ୟପଦେଶେ କେତେ ଆଦରରେ ରଖିଥିଲ ପାଶେ ପଠାଇ ନ ଦେଲ କର୍ମ ବ୍ୟପଦେଶେ ଯୁଗ ଯୁଗ ଧରି ଘୂରିଲେଣି କେତେ ଯୁଗ ଯୁଗ ଧରି ଘୂରିଲେଣି କେତେ ଫେରିବାକୁ ମନ ଆକୁଳ ଯୁଗ ଯୁଗ ଧରି ଘୂରିଲେଣି କେତେ ଫେରିବାକୁ ମନ ଆକୁଳ ବସନ୍ତ ଆସିଛି ଫଗୁଣ ସକାଳେ କୁହୁ କୁହୁ करे କୋକିଳ ବସନ୍ତ ଆସିଛି ଫଗୁଣ ସକାଳେ କୁହୁ କୁହୁ करे କୋକିଳ ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପରତଇ ଫୁଟି ଅଛି ବନେ ବଉଳ ନରମ ଖରାରେ ଧରା ପର परसई फुटी अछि बने बौड़ लुचि लुचि के उठारे रहिल केते दिन पारे आसी देखा देल लुचि लुचि के उठारे रहिल केते दिन पारे आसी देखा देल आउ न भूला निय कोले तोरी आउ न भूला निय कोले तोरी टूटाइए भव जंजाल आउ न भूला निय कोले तोरी टूटाइए भव जंजाल बसंत आसी फगुण सकाळे कुहू कुहू करे कोकिल बसंत आसी फगुण सकाळे कुहू कुहू करे कोकिल नरम खरारे धरा परसई फुटी अछि बने बौड़ नरम खरारे धरा परसई फुटी अछि बने बौड़ फुटी अछि बने बौड़
बंधन मोचन पूजबर गुणहीन शेष गुणाधिपति भवभीरो जाने सततम्बरदं प्रणमामि गुरुं शिव कल्पतरुं प्रणमामि गुरुं शिव कल्पतरु
जय अरुण कांति तव अंगे विराजे अरुण कांति तव अंगे विराजे अरुण किरण शोभा चरण जुगल किबा चरण जुगल किबा अमर कमल दल श्रीपदेला अरुण कांति तव अंगे विराजे अरुण कांति तव अंगे विराजे चरण जुगल किबा अमर कमल तुमरी आलोके जे फेरी जाए भुवने तुमरी आलोके जे फेरी जाए भुवने आहादिया नंदन भुवन लोकमय धनरुणा सुंदर गुरुदेव धनरुणा सुंदर गुरुदेव वंदित पद मनोहर वंदित पद मनोहर वंदित विश्वादि आनंद वंदितानंद कोटि पंचे वंदना कोटि पंचे
Jai Guru. Sadguru Swami Nirvananda Upadeshamrita, page 136, Restraint in Acts. Jai Guru. In this world, saints and sinners, householders and ascetics, the poor and the rich, Brahmins and the Chandalas, all are journeyers on the same path. One day, all will sink, one by one, in the great ocean of love. Therefore, there is no gain in finding difference between good and bad, insultation and admiration. Today you consider somebody the receptacle of ugliness. Tomorrow you may go before him on finding the manifestation of Sankara or Gauranga in him. Hence, all are equal in this world. So sages have advised to visualize all equally. The control of body, speech and mind is the religion of a Hindu. Not to allow mind to be unsteady and restless is indeed Purusartha. Anybody having truth as the goal of life will in no account resort to lies. Man cannot move a step forward without God's will. God always helps the innocent. Do your duties with mind at his feet. Nobody can do any harm to you. Notwithstanding it, if you face any menace, that menace will be the cause of your prosperity. Bow before God, accepting adversity as the gift of God. Desire is the cause of bondage. Desire begets sorrows. One gets at first the opposite of what one desires. If one aspires for joy, he gets sorrows. If one wants cure, he suffers from disease. One intent upon respect finds insult. So says, on relinquishing all desires, only desire for self-realization. God always helps those who perform their work selflessly, in the absence of any hypocrisy. But if one works to assert his ego or to earn name and fame, all his works, even noble and great, end in vain. So we have right only on action, but not on fruits. If one does anything, surrendering all the fruits of action unto God, he experiences peace without any mental joy or sorrow. One will not get peace in the life after death if one does not finish the burden of action here in this world. We have not come here to enjoy unceasing happiness only. One cannot manage to live well if one is perplexed by disease and tears, sorrows and suffering, dangers and torments of this world. One has to accept all these as gifts flowing from his loving and compassionate hand. A sadhaka for the entire life has to fight against the desires of mind. One has to annihilate attributes in the fire of Purusartha. There is nothing to be disappointed. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Jai Guru. Nirajala Satsanga Puri, America Saraswata Sangha, 804th Sangha Buddha Session Report, date March 6, 2022. Parya Sakshat Anjalima Arpitana. Adhivasa Puja, March 5, 2022. Adhivasa Puja was held in the Archana Mandira at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Then Arpitama invited Sri Thakura and all wise Maas and young aspirants to next day Sangha Puja starting at 7:15 a.m. Eastern Time on behalf of all the Paryas. First session, time 7:15 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time. With the grace of Sri Sri Thakur Maharaj, today's Sangha Puja was concluded successfully. The morning session of the puja started at 7:15 a.m. with Pratiksha Gana by Amritama and Miluma with songs Vijay Kara Adi Thakur and Deha Devara Gambhira Gita respectively. During that time, all other devotees joined the puja either at NSM or via teleconference. Then Sanvij Bhai offered Mangal Arati to Sri Sri Thakur at NSM, followed by Bandana and Satra Bandana, led by Smita Baima. Then Brajavai led reading of Parichaya Patra, prayer for the protection of wall from COVID, prayer for Sabilani, and Asana Mandira Nitya Sivapuja. Then Shivan Divedima read Sangha Sevaka 63 years second part, Bandana, Prathana, Prathana Karinka Prati. From Sangha Sevaka, we read about detachment from the worldly objects. Never have fear, jealousy, and hatredness against anyone in your mind, or else the sadhaka will attain the self-realization. Having Vasudeva towards his Gurudev and being righteousness throughout the life will lead to attainment of self-realization. We also read that Sri Gurudev takes our responsibility when we perform our duties as per his will. Prarthana Gatika was sang by Rashmi Chaudhary. After that, Sonalima read Sri Sri Guru Gita, Shloka 83. Then Anjalima invited Sri Sri Thakur for the Balya Bhoga and all wise, Maas and young aspirants for Balya Prasad and to attend the second session of the Sangha Puja. The first session concluded with Jai Guru Mahana. After that, Balya Bhoga was offered to Sri Sri Thakur and wise, Maas and young aspirants had Balya Prasad at NSM. Second session 9:45 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. The second session of the puja started at 9:45 a.m. with Avahana Gana by Anjalima and Sukanyama with Avahana Sangita, Nayana Maniki Mora Nayanari Rakshibi and Rasaraja Besasa Rashika Nagara respectively. After Purami Gana and opening of the curtains, Arpitama sang the Bandana near Deva Bandana near. After that, Kalpanama read Parichaya Patra and followed by Vishwapati Pranama by Uditama. Then Ipsitama read Nigamupadesha chapter, Be the Instrument. Here, Sri Sri Thakur advised to not to run after gross physical things and practice reciting them continuously instead of doing any other sadhana. Then Kishore Bhai read minute of the last Sangha Puja. After that, Sasmitama read Pancha Sanyasana Shishya. Here we read about how Sri Sri Thakur boycotted Kamakhya Bhai from the ashram when he disrespected Bhavanima, Bhairavima and Santima. We also read about how every Sabaka used to learn the proper way of service towards Thakura from Bhairavima, and in spite of the chilling cold of ashram, Bhairavima used to accomplish all the seva with so much devotion. Then Smita Baima sang Prathana Sangita, Sakale Tomari Icha. Then Rashmi Pandama read Sansar Pathe Part 1, where we read about Sri Sri Thakur asked a question to all the householders that, what is that you all want to express before me? He got a satisfactory answer of his questions from only one householder devotee. That was, Thakur, please give me a boon so that I can have faith in you. This explains that Thakur wants us only to have faith in him and he will take all our responsibilities. Then Jnanabhai led the question answer session and discussed a few questions from doctors. Young Ashram session started with Prathana Sangita by Pratisha, Tumari Charana Charana Nechi, Tumema Jivana Karana, followed by attendance of Young Ashrams by Shreyama and discussed how to practice. The Young Ashram session was concluded with Bhavavinibha by Kaliya Sathak. Then Kaliya Anjalima and Arpitama performed their Bhavavinibha Seva, followed by Nimantrana to Sri Sri Thakur for Madhyana Bhoga and evening puja. For the next Sangha Puja, Swahani, Ajit Bhai and Jnana Bhai invited Sri Sri Thakur all Bhaktas, Bhais, Maas and Young Ashrams to be held on March 13. Then Arpitama begged for forgiveness to Sri Sri Thakur and all Bhaktas, Maas and Young Ashrams for any mistake during the Sangha Puja. And the second session of the Sangha Puja was concluded by Vidya Prarthana by Pujama, followed by Jai Guru Namakirtana. and Madhyana Bhoga was offered to Sri Thakur in his room. When Vishnu Bhai took the attendance of all bhaktas and those bhaktas present at Anasana took Madhyana Bhoga Prasad and left for respective places. Link to the attendance it is available on our website. Jai Guru. Jai Guru.
जय गुरु। आचार्य प्रसंग पृष्ठा 24 6 स्टार्ट करिया। रस बई सह से रस स्वरूप जगत को से ही रस जोगाई रसिक शेखर रसराज रासलीला मत होई नृत्यपरा संगीनी गणक प्राण रस संचार करी अप्राकृत मदन रूप में मधुरलीला विलास करथिले। तेणु जीव रसर साधना करे प्रेममय प्रेम प्लावन में भसाई दे आत्महरा हो जाए। नर जगत रसर भावना प्रेमर साधना अप्राकृत सिद्ध देह लाभ करे आउ सही सिद्ध देह असमर्थ लीलारस आस्वादन करे। आज प्रेमिक ठाकुर चरण स्पर्श जेपरी देह मन मोर सुशीतल होगला जीवन सार्थकता जेपरी मते मत करदेला। केते जुगर साधना केते जीवन पुण्य बल एमती अपार्थिव वस्तु लाभ हुए प्रेममय प्रेम सागर रे खेलिबार अधिकार लाभ हुए ताहा वास्तविक मनुष्य बुद्धिर अगोचर। सही जे प्रथम दर्शन ठारू प्राण एक अनिर्वचनीय भावर धारा उत्तल होई छुटुथिला आज जेपरी ताहा अटकी गला। वृद्ध पथरे ठिया होई जेपरी थरे अवस्थान निर्णय करने चेष्टा कला एमिति तृप्त एमिति साम्य अवस्था तो केबे अनुभव करि नहीं। मनीष पाई मनीष प्राण एमिति व्याकुल हुए एमिति पागल हुए एमिति आत्महरा हुए ताहा तो केबे शुणी नहीं। सही वृंदावनर वन बालकर वंशी ध्वनि शुणी गोपबालर आकुल उल्लास कथा श्रीमद भागवत पढ़ी। आज प्राण रे सही आह्वान आसी पहुंचवाक लगिला। एक नूतन आलोक मते एक नूतन पथर संधान देवाक लगिला। रही रही सही आलोक रे जागतिक लक्ष्यभ्रष्ट हो जाउथली। केउ एक अजणा देश रे आनंदर आभास पाई मन मोर पुलकित होई उठुथिला। कि आनंद कि प्रशांति नानाविध चिंतार आनंद शिहरण रे दिन कटिगला। क्रमे आश्रम बाटी संध्यार अंधार ओह्लाई आसला। संगे संगे पूर्णिमार परिपूर्ण चंद्र हस हस मुखरे जगत हसाई आनंद हिल्लोल रे मो प्राण नचाई पूर्वाकाश रे देखादेले। आलोक रे जगत भासीगला किंतु तथापि जेपरी हिम ऋतु कोल रे आलोक फुटी मध्य फुटू नथिला। हिम कोल रे जेपरी चंद्रालोक मूर्छित अवचेतन आत्म प्रकाश करिपारुनथिला। कि मधुर से दृश्य कि मनमतणिया से रूपर विस्तार कि अपरूप से सौंदर्य। जिए देखे सीए निजको हराए पागल हुए। मु मध्य एही नयन मन मुग्धकर दृश्य निजको हराई देउथिली। प्राण आनंद जेपरी बहिर्जगत ही आनंद आवाहन रे निजको विसर्जन देवा पई आकुल आग्रह रे प्रतीक्षा करुथिला। संध्या घनी आसिला। भक्तवृंदर समागम हेबाकु लागला। ठाकुर महाराज आज बहिर्बारे से ही हल घरे आसन ग्रहण कले। भक्तगण चारिपाखरे घेरी बसिले। बाहरे आकाश मंडल नक्षत्र शोभित निशिकांत आउ घरे भक्तगण परिवेष्टित प्राणर आराध्य देवता ठाकुर कि एक मोहनीय बरणीय मधुर कांति विराजमान। एही मनमुग्धकर दृश्य प्रकाशर भाषा नहीं लेखनी शक्तिहीन। एही महानंद दृश्य भक्त परिवेष्टित श्री गुरुंक अधिष्ठान कि मधुर कि तृप्तिकर कि सुखकर। एही समय रे जड़े ब्रह्मचारी आसी ठाकुरंक पई पान देई गले। ठाकुर पचारे काहींकि रे तू काहींकि माँ कहांती। ब्रह्मचारी कहले से बाहरे अछंती। ठाकुर सेतबेले डाकिले माँ माँ तुम्हें बाहरे काहींकि माँ मो पाखकु आस। माँ सेतबेले अति संकुचित भाव रे घरे प्रवेश कले। लाल पाड़ी गेरुआ साड़ी पिंधा भैरवी ब्रह्मचारिणी नाम तांकर जोगमा। से ही माँ ठाकुरंकर पौढ़ा शिष्या। माँ भली ठाकुरंकर सर्वविध सेवा जत्न माँ भली ठाकुरंकर सर्वविध सेवा जत्न करिथांती। माँ उपस्थित हेबारु ठाकुर शिशु भली कहिले माँ तुमे मते पान खुआई दियो मु तुमर हाथरू खाइबी मु तुम हाथरू खाइबी। माँ अगत्या सेया कले। ठाकुर माँ को कहले ताकू अर्थात मते देखिकी तुमर लज्जा कौन से तो मो पुओ। ମା ସେତେବେଳେ ମୋ ପ୍ରତି ଟିକିଏ କରୁଣାବଳା ଦୃଷ୍ଟି ନିକ୍ଷେପ କରି କକ୍ଷାନ୍ତରେ ଚାଲିଗଲେ। ମୁଁ ମନ୍ତ୍ରମୁଗ୍ଧ ଭଳି ଏହି ମହିୟସୀ ରମଣୀ ମୂର୍ତ୍ତି ଦେଖୁଥିଲି ଆଉ ଦେଖୁଥିଲି ସେହି ଗୁରୁ ଗମ୍ଭୀର ଯୋଗୀଙ୍କର ଶିଶୁ ଭଳି ଭାବ ମାଙ୍କ ନିକଟରେ ସନ୍ତାନର ଅବତାର। ଯାହା ହେଉ ଭକ୍ତଗଣ ନେଇ ନାନା କଥାରେ ଠାକୁର ବିହଳ ହୋଇଗଲେ। ଧର୍ମ ଜଗତର ଯେକୌଣସି ନିଗୁଢ଼ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ଅତି ସରଳ ଓ ପ୍ରାଞ୍ଜଳ ଭାଷାରେ ବୁଝାଇବାକୁ ଲାଗିଲେ, ଯେପରି ସମସ୍ତ ସତ୍ୟ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟକ୍ଷ କରି ଆସିଛନ୍ତି। ମୋତେ ମୋ ଭଜନ ସମ୍ବନ୍ଧରେ କିଛି କିଛି ଉପଦେଶ ଦେଲେ ଏବଂ କହିଲେ, ଆୟର ଏକ ଅଂଶ ଧର୍ମ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟରେ ବ୍ୟୟ କରିବାକୁ ହୁଏ। ଏହା ହିଁ ମନୁଙ୍କ ମତ। ତୁମେ ଧର୍ମ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟରେ ମାସକୁ 5 ଟଙ୍କା ଲେଖାଏଁ ବ୍ୟୟ କରିବ। ମୋର ଏହି ଆଶ୍ରମକୁ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ। ଆଉ ପିଲା ଛୁଆ ତ ହୋଇଛନ୍ତି। ସ୍ୱାମୀ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ 2 ଜଣ ଯାକ ଭାଇ ଭଉଣୀଙ୍କ ଭଳି ବାସ କରିବ। ଆଦର୍ଶ ଗୃହୀ ହେବ ଏବଂ ଆଦର୍ଶ ଗାର୍ହସ୍ଥ ଜୀବନ ଧାରଣ କରିବ। ତୁମମାନଙ୍କ ନିକଟରୁ ମୁଁ ଏହା ହିଁ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟାଶା କରେ। ମୁଁ ଗୁରୁଦେବଙ୍କର ଏହି ଆଦେଶରେ ପ୍ରକୃତରେ କୁଣ୍ଠିତ ହୋଇପଡ଼ିଲି। ମାସରେ ମାତ୍ର 30 ଟଙ୍କା ଦରମା ପାଏ। ତାହାଦ୍ୱାରା ସଂସାର ଯାତ୍ରା ନିର୍ବାହ ହୁଏ ନା। ପୁଣି ଅନ୍ୟ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କି ଭାବରେ ବହନ କରିବି କିଛି ଭାବିପାରିଲି ନାହିଁ। ଯାହା ହେଉ ତାଙ୍କ ଆଦେଶ ପ୍ରତିପାଳନ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଯଥାସାଧ୍ୟ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିବି, ଏହିପରି ମନେ ମନେ ସଂକଳ୍ପ କଲି। ଅତଃପର ମୁଁ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କୁ କହିଲି, ମୁଁ ଶାକ୍ତ, ମୋ ପୂର୍ବପୁରୁଷଗଣ ଆମରି ଶାକ୍ତ ଥିଲେ, ସୁତରାଂ ଆଉ ହରିନାମ ନିଏ ନା ଏବଂ ହରି କୀର୍ତ୍ତନ ଆଦିରେ ଯୋଗଦାନ କରେ ନା। ସେ ଶୁଣି କିଞ୍ଚିତ ବ୍ୟଥିତ ହେଲେ ଓ କହିଲେ, କାହିଁକି? ଶାସ୍ତ୍ରରେ କ'ଣ ହରିନାମ ନେବାର ମନା ଅଛି? ତାରକ ବ୍ରହ୍ମ ହରିନାମ ସମସ୍ତେ ନେଇପାରନ୍ତି। ଏଥିରେ ଶୀଘ୍ର ଶୀଘ୍ର ଚିତ୍ତ ଶୁଦ୍ଧି ହୁଏ। ବଗୁଡ଼ାରେ ମତିବାବୁ ଓ ଅନ୍ୟମାନେ ମିଶି ମୋ ଉପଦେଶ ଅନୁସାରେ ଗୋଟିଏ ହରିସଭା କରିଥିଲେ। ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ରବିବାର ସେମାନେ ସେଠାରେ ବସି ହରିନାମ ସଂକୀର୍ତ୍ତନ କରନ୍ତି। ତୁମେ ବି ନିୟମିତ ଭାବରେ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ରବିବାର ହରିନାମ ସଂକୀର୍ତ୍ତନରେ ଯୋଗଦାନ କରିବ। ମୋ ଶିଷ୍ୟଗଣଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଏପରି ଭେଦଭାବ ରହିବ, ଏହା ମୋର ଆଦୌ ବାଞ୍ଛନୀୟ ନୁହେଁ। ମୁଁ ନିର୍ଦ୍ଦେଶ ପ୍ରତିପାଳନ କରିବାକୁ ସ୍ୱୀକୃତ ହେଲି। କ୍ରମେ ରାତ୍ରି ବଢ଼ିବାକୁ ଲାଗିଲା। ହଠାତ୍ ବାହାରେ ଦରଜାର ଖଟଖଟ ଶବ୍ଦ ହେଲା। କେହି ଡାକୁଛନ୍ତି ମନେକରି ମୁଁ ଶୀଘ୍ର ଉଠି ବାହାରକୁ ଆସିଲି। ଦେଖିଲି ଚାରିଦିଗ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ରାଲୋକରେ ଭାସୁଅଛି, କିନ୍ତୁ କେହି କୁଆଡ଼େ ନାହାନ୍ତି। ଏପାଖ ସେପାଖ ଖୋଜି ବ୍ୟର୍ଥ ମନୋରଥ ହୋଇ ଫେରିଗଲି। ପରେ ଜାଣିଲି ଏ ଘରେ ଭୂତ ବାସ କରନ୍ତି। 3ଟି ମୁସଲମାନ ଭୂତ ବହୁଦିନ ଧରି ଏ ଘରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି। ତାଙ୍କ ଭୟରେ କେହି ଏ ଘର ଭଡ଼ା ନିଅନ୍ତି ନାହିଁ, କିନ୍ତୁ ଠାକୁର ଏ ଘରଟିକୁ ଭଡ଼ାଇ ଆଶ୍ରମ କରିଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ଭୂତମାନଙ୍କୁ କାହାରି ଉପରେ କୌଣସି ଅତ୍ୟାଚାର କରିବାକୁ ନିଷେଧ କରିଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ଓ କହିଛନ୍ତି, କୌଣସି ପ୍ରକାର ଅତ୍ୟାଚାର କଲେ ହିଁ ଏ ଘରୁ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ତଡ଼ିଦେବେ। ଫଳରେ ଭୂତମାନେ ଟିକିଏ ଥଣ୍ଡା ହୋଇ ରହିଛନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ସେମାନଙ୍କ ସ୍ୱଭାବ ବଶରେ ମଝିରେ ମଝିରେ ଇଆଡ଼େ ସିଆଡ଼େ ଏଇ ରକମ ଖଟଖଟ ଶବ୍ଦ କରନ୍ତି। ପରେ ଶୁଣିଛି ଯେ ଠାକୁର ଭୂତମାନଙ୍କ ସହିତ କଥା କହୁଥିଲେ। ଇଚ୍ଛା ଅନୁଯାୟୀ ଯେକୌଣସି ଭୂତକୁ ଡାକି ତାକୁ ନିର୍ଦ୍ଦେଶ ଦେଉଥିଲେ। ଭୂତମାନେ ବି ଅନେକ ସମୟରେ ତାଙ୍କର ପ୍ରତ୍ୟକ୍ଷ ହୋଇ ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ କଥା କହୁଥିଲେ। ତାଙ୍କ ବେଦନା କଥା ମନୋଗତ ଭାବ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଜଣାଉଥିଲେ। ଆଚାର୍ଯ୍ୟ ଦେବ ଅନେକ ସମୟରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଏହି ସବୁ ଭୂତଜୋନି ସହିତ ଦେଖା ସାକ୍ଷାତ କରି କଥା କହିଛନ୍ତି। ସେ ଇଚ୍ଛା ମାତ୍ରକେ ଯେକୌଣସି ବିଦେହୀ ଆତ୍ମା ଅଣାଇ ପ୍ରାର୍ଥୀକୁ ଦେଖାଇ ଦେଇପାରୁଥିଲେ। ଇହକାଳ ଓ ପରକାଳର ଯୋଗସୂତ୍ର ତାଙ୍କ ହାତ ମଧ୍ୟରେ ହିଁ ଥିଲା। ଇଚ୍ଛା ମାତ୍ରକେ ସେ ପରକାଳର ଓ ଭବିଷ୍ୟତର ସମ୍ବାଦ ସଂଗ୍ରହ କରି ଦେଇପାରୁଥିଲେ। ଯଦିଚ ସେ କୌଣସି ପ୍ରକାର ଐଶ୍ୱର୍ଯ୍ୟ ପ୍ରକାଶ କରିନାହାନ୍ତି, ତଥାପି ଅନେକ ସମୟରେ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟୋପଦେଶେ ବା ଭକ୍ତର ଅତ୍ୟଧିକ ଆଗ୍ରହରେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଅନେକ ଆଶ୍ଚର୍ଯ୍ୟଜନକ ଅମାନୁଷିକ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିଛି। ବଗୁଡ଼ାରେ ହିଁ ଆମର ଶ୍ରଦ୍ଧେୟ ଗୋବିନ୍ଦ ବାବୁଙ୍କ ଗୃହରେ ତାଙ୍କ ଭାତୃସ୍ପୁତ୍ରୀ ଐକାନ୍ତିକ ଅନୁରୋଧରେ ଗୋବିନ୍ଦ ବାବୁଙ୍କ ମୃତା ପତ୍ନୀଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖିଲେ। ଝିଅଟି ତାହାର ଖୁଡ଼ୀଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖି ଖୁବ୍ ଆଶ୍ଚର୍ଯ୍ୟାନ୍ୱିତ ହୋଇଥିଲା ଏବଂ ଗୋବିନ୍ଦ ବାବୁଙ୍କୁ ବିଦେହୀର ମୂର୍ତ୍ତି ଓ ପରିଧେୟ ବସ୍ତ୍ର ବିଷୟରେ କହିବାରୁ ତାହା ଯେ ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ମିଳି ଯାଇଥିଲା, ତାହା ଗୋବିନ୍ଦ ବାବୁ ନିଜେ ହିଁ ସ୍ୱୀକାର କରିଛନ୍ତି। ଠାକୁର ଏପରି ଯୋଗଶକ୍ତି ଜୀବନରେ ଖୁବ୍ କମ୍ ଦେଖାଇଛନ୍ତି। ସେ ସର୍ବବିଧ ବହିରଙ୍ଗ ଯୋଗ ବିଭୂତି ପରିତ୍ୟାଗ କରି ସରଳ ଓ ସହଜ ମଣିଷ ଭାବରେ ଦିନ ଯାପନ କରିଛନ୍ତି। ଜୟ ଗୁରୁ।
Jai Guru. I will try to explain the chapter steps in English, and if I make any mistakes, please forgive me. Couple of weeks back, we read about the initiation or Diksha of Dasgupta Bhai. Surendramohan Dasgupta Bhai saw Thakur Maharaj as the source of eternal bliss and the embodiment of the aesthetic flavor or rasa. The human form conducts spiritual training for this aesthetic flavor or rasa, and he loses his senses due to the deluge of eternal love generated by the god or Premamaya. Just by touching Sri Sri Thakura Maharaj's feet, Dasgupta Bhai felt coolness in his body and mind. He felt as if his aim in life is achieved. He felt as if because good deeds aggregated in the past lifespans, he got chance to play in the ocean of eternal love created by God or Premamaya. He had never felt this degree of calmness or this degree of satisfaction. He could never realize in the past how one human being can long for another human being so deeply. It is as if gopis are looking for their most beloved Krishna. He felt the same urge in his heart, and he felt as if a new light is showing the path of his life. He could sense the happiness of that unknown kingdom that gave him a lot of joy, such happiness and such calmness. The whole day passed by as he got different feelings of happiness, and it soon became dark in the evening. Dasgupta Bhai was still experiencing wide variety of happy emotions, and he had no control over them. In the evening, more and more devotees started to gather, and they sat around Thakur Maharaj. This created an eternal picture whose beauty cannot be explained in words. At that moment, one of the disciples gave betel leaf to Thakur Maharaj. Thakur Maharaj asked, "Why are you giving this to me? Where is Ma?" To which the disciple answered, "Ma is outside." Then Thakur Maharaj called Ma and asked, "Why is she outside?" Then Ma entered the room hesitatingly. She was Ma Jogomaya, and she was wearing a satin colored sari. She took care of Thakur Maharaj completely. When she stood near Thakur Maharaj said like a child, "Please feed me this betel leaf. I will eat from your hand only." Ma did the same. Thakur Maharaj said, "Why are you hesitating in front of Dasgupta Bhai? He is like my son." Ma saw Dasgupta Bhai with affection, and she left the room. Then there was a lot of spiritual discussion, and Thakur Maharaj answered a lot of questions from the devotees in a very simple terms. Thakur Maharaj gave advice to Dasgupta Bhai on how to do spiritual practice and asked him to spend around 5 rupees every month on religious activities and to support the matha. He also asked Dasgupta Bhai to live like an ideal householder in the society. Just because he already had children, so he asked Dasgupta Bhai to live with his wife like brother and sister and live like an ideal householder. At this moment, Dasgupta Bhai became a bit confused. He felt that his salary is just around 30 rupees. So, will it be enough for me to get 5 rupees out of it and spend on spiritual activities? At that moment, Thakur Maharaj also asked him to spend time in chanting names. He said that by chanting names, you will achieve your meditation and your spiritual practice in a much faster way. At that moment, they heard some sounds outside the door. When they went out, they could not find anyone. Later, Dasgupta Bhai realized that there are some ghosts in the house, and they have been staying in this house, because of which this house was not on rent for a long time. Seeing that, Thakur Maharaj took the rented up house, and he directed the ghost that if you start creating trouble for anybody in this house, it would not be good for them. And they agreed to it, and and Thakur Maharaj was able to talk to them, give directions to them about their work, and he also listened to their life stories where they shared their sorrows and pain, and Thakur Maharaj listened to them affectionately. Thakur Maharaj was a proponent of the life after death as well as the life in this world. He has never shown anything that would show that his power and his understanding of this in this world, as well as the life after death. He always tried living like a simple human being and preaching the spiritual practice. Jai Guru.
जय गुरु। आखी भीजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सबु दुख दिल सारी आखी भीजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सबु दुख दिल सारी कोटि जनमर अलस काली माँ कोटि जनमर अलस काली माँ पलरे नीलहारी पलकरे नीलहारी आखी भीजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सबु दुख दिल सारी सबु दुख दिल सारी अमर जनीर तीर्थ तारासी कही दे गला मोते हसी हसी अमर जनीर तीर्थ तारासी कही दे गला मोते हसी हसी जली नाही जिए वेदना नियारे जली नाही जिए वेदना नियारे दुखी किए तहा पारे दुखी किए तहा पारी आखी भीजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सबु दुख दिल सारी आखी भीजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सबु दुख दिल सारी আজি গলা মোর সকল গরব মানস নমন ধন গৌরব হই গলা মোর সকল গরব মানস নমন ধন গৌরব যে তোমার নিঠুর করুণা যে তোমার নিঠুর করুণা পারিবি নাহি পাশুরি পারিবি নাহি পাশুরি আখি ভিজি গলা লুহারি লুহারি सबु दुख दिल सारी आखि भिजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सबु दुख दिल सारी जहाँ इच्छा बे अच्छी तुम मानी मधुमय ফুটুই জীবনী যাহা ইচ্ছায় বে আছি তোমামানি মধুময় হই फुटुए जीवने परम प्रेमर विपुल दान रे परम प्रेमर विपुल दान रे मंतर दिया भारी दिया भारी आखि भिजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सब दुख दिल सारी आखि भिजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सब दुख दिल सारी परी मोर जगत बंधन परी लोर सकल क्रंदन परी मोर जगत बंधन परी लोर सकल क्रंदन यही थारे सबु रही जाओ प्रभु यही थारे सबु रही जाओ प्रभु यही थारे सबु रही जाओ प्रभु जीवी खाली नाम धरी जीवी खाली नाम धरी आखि भिजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सब दुख दिल सारी आखि भिजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सब दुख दिल सारी कोटि जनमर कलुष कालीमा कोटि जनमर कलुष कालीमा कोटि जनमर कलुष कालीमा कल करे नीलहरी कल करे नीलहरी आखि भिजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सब दुख दिल सारी आखि भिजी गला लुहारी लुहारी सब दुख दिल सारी सब दुख दिल सारी
ଅଛନ୍ତି ବିନାରେ ଜଏନ୍ କରିନାହାନ୍ତି ଆଉ କିଏ ରେଡି ଅଛନ୍ତି କରିବେ ପାରିବେ ସୁଧୀର ଭାଇ ସୁଧୀର ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ଅଛି ସଂଗଠନ କରିପାରିବେ ସଂଖ୍ୟା କଥା ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ପଛରେ କରିପାରିବେ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା
ହଉ କରିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ ଜୟ
ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ଟାକୁ ଆଉ ଥରେ ଖୋଲିବାକୁ ପଡିବ କେମିତି
ସମୟ ଲାଗି ମୁଁ କରିଦେବି ନହେଲେ
ହଁ ଭାଇ ଗୋଟେ ଲାପଟପ୍ ଟା ଖୋଲୁଛି ଆପଣ ତାହେଲେ ପଢିଛନ୍ତି
ଆଚ୍ଛା ହଉ ଜୟ ମୁଁ କରିଦେଉଛି କାରଣ ସମୟ ଚାଲିଯାଉଛି ତ ସଂଖ୍ୟାର ପଛେ Part 1. Myriad of sadhanas
did not yield results, but a single prayer bore fruit. Hence, I say, forget knowledge and duty, lust and desire, wife and children, forget yourself as well, and look up to the cosmic mother and say, Ma, take this unfortunate child to your lap. Take home this ignorant son who has deviated from the righteous path. Come and wipe my tears with your clothes and take me home. Dhruv and Prahlad came to this world in the pretense of divine play to spread the glory of devotion. But how much pain are you bearing by deviating from righteous path? O cosmic mother, all these are your divine plays. No one can understand your divine play besides you. Give me shelter in your essential peaceful lap. It's eternal peaceful lap. Guru is attributeless. Hence, prayers don't have any impact on him. However, all types of prayers can be offered to a human guru or sadguru. By praying to Brahmavid Guru, that is Guru who is aware of Brahma, Brahma, Atma, all Guru. You can always get to knowledge. Thinking of me as God, think and pray to me like a liberated and spiritually perfect great soul. By praying before me or praying to human guru or the sadguru, the state of Brahma, Atma and Bhagavan can be realized. Sadguru has the capability to grant you everything. You need to have firm belief in his words. Joy Guru. नेक्स्ट आइटम है जे आम जो चिट्ठी आम पब्लिश कले ट्रांसलेट कले इंग्लिश रे पब्लिश कले से गोटे सेवा समर्पण पूरा आर्ट कराई जे गोटे इट वाज ए मेजर सेवा गोटे सेवा ग्रहण करते आम ज्ञान भाई मन अच्छी कि आम केवे आरंभ करते
बहु वर्ष हो गलानी प्राय 7-8 वर्ष हम
हाँ 7-8 वर्ष हम तो नहीं एते दिन पर जाओ मैंने अपन देखी सम्मेलन में थर्ड कंटा पब्लिश करागला द फाइनल वॉल्यूम से ठाकुर कृतज्ञ मोर खाली मन पड़ुची जे इनिशियली जेते मो पैसा को इनिशियल थी से मु दिने वॉलंटियर करथली जे लेट मी लीड दैट सेवा माने एतमे मु हसुची जे सम यू थिंक दैट यू कैन डू इट हां किंतु फ्रॉम माय एक्सपीरियंस आई रियलाइज ठाकुर इच्छा हम हम ना आम जो केते प्रकृत केते बाधा विघ्न जे गति करछि माने सेवाटा कथा कहूँ मो कथा कहूँ सेवाटा केते बाधा विघ्न जे जाइछि तार जे टाइम जे मैंने केन्द्र मना करदे मैंने इंग्लिश पब्लिश हम ना तापर फाइनाली अनुमति देले मत कहले जे देवेंद्र भाई रिव्यू करेंगे दे दिंतु देवेंद्र भाई देवेंद्र महापात्र भाई देली रिव्यू करने भाई किंतु कहले जे नाई 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 सेमती मत रिव्यू मुझे करी ना से मुझे आयोजन ओडिशा बोले तुम्हें आम घर को आस भुवनेश्वर है आम घर को आस तुम्हें गोटा ना पढ़ गोटे मानने चिंता कर देखी ठीक अच्छे ना सो आई डिड दैट फॉर सेवरल डेज मु बंगला बही गोटे सेंटेंस पढ़ी तापर आम इंग्लिश कौन ट्रांसलेशन कर सेंटेंस पढ़ी सेंटेंस बाय सेंटेंस सी आखि बुझिक 10 सेकेंड 15 सेकेंड भावे तापर कहे कौन चेंज करा पड़ो आप इमेजिन करूँ माने हाउ लॉन्ग दैट विल टेक मु गोटे सेंटेंस पढ़ी से गोटे सेंटेंस बंगला पढ़ी गोटे सेंटेंस इंग्लिश पढ़ी से भावे कही से मो तो समझ आम यहाँ फेरी आसिली ये सेम चला किसी दिन मझे मझे फोन करी से हम फोन बंगला कह फोन कह ओ माय गॉड एनीवे फाइनली ठाकुर इच्छा माने रब भाई दिया चोड़ा भाई रब भाई जिनसा एनीवे तो आपण ग्रुप चाहूनी जे केते असुविधा है कौन सुविधा है एथर लास्ट मोमेंट हेबन बोली माने लगला जा हेबन से परिमा जस्ट फ्यू डेज लेफ्ट एनीवे फाइनली ठाकुर इच्छा हम कंप्लीट कलु और तो जो माने चिट्ठी ट्रांसलेशन रे रिव्यू रे जेकोन सेवा चिट्ठी पब्लिकेशन सेवा साहाय्य करथिले आमे टिके समस्त ठिया होई ठाकुर पाखरे जे सेवा देथिले हमकु आम कृतज्ञता जनवा एवं जदि आम जहाँ जहाँ भूल रही एबे भी ट्रांसलेशन देखुच माने गोटे भूल रही जाऊँगी जहाँ अपराध है ट्रांसलेशन रिव्यू हो जहाँ अपराध है ठाकुर पाखे क्षमा प्रार्थना करवा जेहेतु आम जो सेवाटा नहीं 3टा चिठी पब्लिश करवा इंग्लीश ट्रांसलेशन करी सेवाटा कंप्लीट है सेवाटा समर्पण करवा समस्त ठिया होकर कर जय गुरु। जय गुरु। अच्छा हमरो नेक्स्ट हूँ क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन जेहेतु 2 मिनट समय अच्छी बिफोर वी स्टार्ट खाली गोटे दिन कथा कहना चाहूँगी जे अगेन यू नो दैट व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट दिनोसालिटी ऑब्वियसली आई एम ग्लैड टू से दैट हमरो बहुत भक्त पार्टिसिपेट करूछंती प्राय ओवर so I'm really grateful to them each of you आपने संघर गोटे गो हेल्प कर किंतु नो प्लीज कीप अप मुझे देखुची के जन दिने आज के 13 तारीख हो गला दिने 2 दिन 3 दिन कहीकि रही जाइछंती कि कंटिन्यू करम माने कंटिन्यू कला देखिबे जे माने दिने एटा अभ्यास करन चाहिए माने आई हैव बीन डूइंग फॉर ईयर so you know अपन देखिए जे दिने अपन नकले माने दिन भी फिलअप नकले अपन किसी खराब लगे आज छाड़ देली मो एक्सपीरियंस कहूँ से करंतु देखो अपन परिवर्तन देखो निज भीतर परिवर्तन हो कि नहीं देखु तेणु हाँ आउ गोटे कथा कहना चाहूँगी जे आमर मासिक लिपि जहाँ लास्ट मंथ रे आमर फेब्रुआरी मसरे जानुआरी मसर मासिक लिपि 12 जन देते फेब्रुआरी मसर मासिक लिपि ये मार्च मसरे आउ 2 जन अधिका दी सो आम 14 जन देले मासिक लिपि गुड न्यूज अन्य मैंने चाहते देवाई दिंतु जस्ट वांटेड टू मेंशन दैट आम नंबर 2 जन बढ़ी अच्छा आम जा आमर जो सकाले संघ सेवक पढ़ुले प्रार्थनाकारी प्रस्तुत आरंभ करवा बाहर कुआरे गला जस्ट गिव मी अ सेकंड हियर प्रोग्राम प्रिपरेशन अच्छा हो जय गुरु। तो प्रार्थनाकारी प्रस्तुत आरंभ कले जे गुरु सेवाटा है कौन श्रेष्ठ 3टा देखिए साधु संघ शास्त्र पाठ आ गुरु सेवा ता भितर गुरु सेवाटा श्रेष्ठ गुरु सेवार बाकी 2टा माने फल मिल जाए साधु संघ फल शास्त्र पाठ फल मिल जाए आम तो जानते आम समझते एग्जाम्पलटा तार जे शंकराचार्य शिष्य थे गिरी कमी से गिरी रू त्रोटकाचार्य हो गले माने किसी आसू ना माने निरक्षर थे हाँ गुरु सेवा द्वारा जे जाइए ठाकुर कौन शंकराचार्य लुगा काटिया लुगा धोया नहीं नई नहीं शंकराचार्य अपेक्षा कर गिरी फेर से डिस्कसन आरंभ करेंगे डिस्कोर्स आरंभ करेंगे पद्मवाद इत्यादि इत्यादि कहते जे सी कौन बुझ अपेक्षा कर बोलते गुरु से कौन गिरी से चोटक छंदे गुरु स्तोत्र वंदना कर आस हाँ ना से चोटकाचार्य होगा मैंने गुरु कौन न हुए केवल सेवा द्वारा कौन न हुए आम ठाकुर जानते थे मठे जुगल किशोर ठाकुर कृपार केमती सांख्यर गुड़ा फुटी उठला भाव गुड़ा फुटी उठला भितर से कहते जे अविचार गुरुंर आदेश पालन करने थे आमर ये कही भाईना हठात मन पड़नी कटक संक्रम भाई जॉइन करते कहते आमको कहीं अविचार पालन करा पड़ो कारण आम विचार कले आम विचार भूल रही से ठाकुर से विचारटा कर विचारटा द्वारा हो जाए विचार करके आदेश देते जेहेतु सी विचार कर आमर विचार कर आवश्यकता ही ना आम आवश्यक आम विचार कर आम भूल हम कहीं आम ज्ञान ना अविचार आदेश पालन करवा आ गोटे कथा कहले केतटा कथा कही जस्ट लुकिंग एट सम ऑफ दोस हाँ से कहते जे कहारी दोष गुण समालोचना करने कथा नुहे यहाँ ठाकुर स्टेटमेंट आसी निजे समस्त गुणर अधिकारी और अन्य माने समस्त दोषर आकार आकर ये ठाकुर स्टेटमेंट पूरी थी कि ठाकुर स्टेटमेंट आम भावानी जे आम 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 पाखे सब दोष मान गुण रही बाकी बाकी सब दुर्गुण रही ठाकुर कहले जिते प्रकार पतन हो पाए मनुष्य जिते प्रकार पतन हो पाए निजक बड़ मन करवा सबुठ प्रधान सब देखा जदि आम मन आज हो मो भाया कई नुह जेकोसी ये मो भाया कई पढ़ी पारे मो भाया कई गीत बोली पारे मो भाया कई कथा कही पारे मो भाया कई बाजा बजे पारे कि मो भाया कई सेवा करें आम जाना जे आम पतन दिगरे चली ठाकुर पाखे व्याकुल भाव प्रार्थना करूँ ठाकुर ये भाव जमी मो मन न आसू मुझे केते महामया सेवक अच्छा मुझे नुहे पाखे व्याकुल भाव प्रार्थना करवा जदि केवे मन आसे मुझे जमी गीत बोली ना कहीं बोली पारे जानवे आप पतन पतन दिग पतन है पतन अभिमुखी आप कहते नित्य लोक श्री गुरुदेव सेवा अधिकार है आमर मूल लक्ष्य या प्रेम सेवा सुभद्रा गति कहती जे अनुगा भोजन कथा अनुगा भोजन देना ठाकुर कहते जे कहार गोटे सखी अनुगा है माने भाया सेवा कर निजक भाव आम ललिता आम विशाखा भाविले आमर से भाया भावमय देह सेवा देह गठित हम शेष आमर प्रेम सुभद्रा गति देह मिलीन हो एनिवे ये तो रहिले आम तापर सी आउटा कौन था हाँ कम भी बना कर पढ़ी ये रहा जदि किसी क्वेश्चन अच्छी कार पचारतु आई ट्राई टू आंसर अच्छा क्वेश्चन ना मुझे गोटे जिन कह चाहूँगी जे ये सेवा उपरे मुझे वृंदावन कथा होती ये कहूँ आम समस्त सेवाटा केमती ठीक ठीक हम ये आज दिज भक्त सेवा दिखाई सेवा कले ना अपराध है समस्त सेवाटा केमती ठीक ठीक हम से आम सब सतर्क रहा वृंदावन कथा होती ये जो गीत असाइनमेंट नहीं भाई कहले अनेक भक्त सेवा कर संगीत सेवा कर ठीक भाव गाई पार कहीं गाई पार प्राक्ट करना तेणु एमती भूल कहीं होमर जदि आम संगीत सेवा नेबा प्राक्ट नक संगीत बोले कौन हम अपराध अपराध हम तो भाई कहते मत मैं बेसी चांस मिलूनी मैंने जहाँ को दबाक चाहूँगी मैंने कौन जे सकाल कई भक्त जॉइन कर पार तेणु सेकेंड सेक्शन बेसी जॉइन कर सकाल तेणु दवाई मैंने मत मिलूना सेवक ठीक भाव मिलूना बोली पारे वंदना ठीक भाव कि स्तोत्र वंदना ठीक भाव कर नहीं तो समझे प्राक्ट करूँ जो सेवा नौ प्राक्ट करूँ मैंने ना अपराध हम भाई मैंने माँ मैंने कि अपराध वर्जित भाव सेवा करवा से आम समस्ते चेष्टा करवा गोटे कथा कह चाहूँगी जे आमर ये जो परिचालना कमिटी बर्तमान ये जो परिचालना नूतन परिचालना कमिटीटा आमर मोर जहाँ मन पड़ी सेप्टेम्बर 12 ये परिचालना कमिटी कार्यभार ग्रहण करते शपथ नहीं कार्यभार ग्रहण करते आमर यहाँ मार्च 13 तेणु वी कम्प्लीटेड 6 months भितर गुड़ाए चेंज आने चेष्टा करते सफल होते सफल होना फर गोटे एग्जांपल कहूँ सफल होना जे चाहूलु जे आहरी अधिका भक्त जोग दिखाँ जो इनिशियली कही सेवा ग्रहण जे आमर 20% भक्त 80% सेवा कर डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हवा दरकार कहीं 20% भक्त 80% सेवा करें बाकी मैंने कहीं जोग न दे तेणु आप नोटिस करते एक्सपांड अधिका भक्त बर्तमान जॉइन कर माने प्रोग्राम देखुवे किंतु अन्य रही सेवा नकल रही तो आप माने सक्सेसफुल होना ଆମର କହୁଛୁ ଯେ ନିତ୍ୟ ଲୋକରେ ସରବେ ସେବା ନିରତ ରାଇଟ୍ ତମ ଘରେ ଆନନ୍ଦିତ ଆମେ ତ ସରବେ ସେବା ନିରତ ହେଇପାରୁନୁ ଏଠି ସରବେ ସେବା ନିରତ ହେଇପାରୁନାହୁଁ ଆଉ ତୁମେ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରନ୍ତୁ ସମାଜ ସେବା ନିରତ କରିବେ ସେବା ନେବେ କିଛି ନା କିଛି ସେବା ନେବେ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଆଉ ଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ କଥା ହଁ ଯେ ଯେହେତୁ ଆମର 6 ମାସ କମ୍ପ୍ଲିଟ୍ ହେଇଛି ନୂଆ ପରିଚାଳନା କମିଟିର ଯଦି ଆପଣମାନେ କୋଉଠି ଦୋଷ ତ୍ରୁଟି ଲକ୍ଷ୍ୟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଟିକେ ଜଣାନ୍ତୁ ନ ଜଣେଇଲେ ଆମେ ଜାଣିପାରୁନୁ କାରଣ ନିଜେ ନିଜର ଦୋଷ ଜାଣିବା ଟିକେ ଡିଫିକଲ୍ଟ ଯେମିତି ନିଜେ ନିଜର ମୁହଁଟା ଆସି ନହେଲେ ଦର୍ପଣ ନହେଲେ ମୁହଁରେ ଦେଖି ହୁଏ ନା ସେମିତି ସମସ୍ତେ ଯିଏ ସେବା କରୁଛନ୍ତି ସେ ଭାବୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ମୋର ଠିକ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ତେଣୁ ଟିକେ ଆପଣ ଯଦି ଜଣାନ୍ତେ ଯେ କୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ସେବାରେ ଆମର ଭୁଲ ରହୁଛି ଆମେ ତାକୁ କରେକ୍ଟ କରିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିବୁ ଆଟ୍ ଦ ସେମ୍ ଟାଇମ୍ ଯଦି କୌଣସି ସେବା ଠିକ ହଉଛି ତାକୁ ପହଞ୍ଚିବା ଏଇଟା ଠିକ ଅଛି ଆପଣ ଏଇଟା କଣ୍ଟିନ୍ୟୁ କରନ୍ତୁ ନହେଲେ ଆମେ ଭାବି ମାନେ କୋଉ ସେବାଟା ଡ୍ରପ୍ କରିଦେବୁ ସେ ଯୋଉଟା ଠିକ ଅଛି କଣ ଜଣାନ୍ତୁ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଫିଡବ୍ୟାକଟା ୱିଲ୍ ରିଅଲି ହେଲ୍ପ ଅସ୍ ଯେମିତି ସଂଘରେ ମାନେ ଠିକ ଭାବରେ ଯେମିତି ଘରେ ଚାଲିବା କଥା ଠାକୁରଙ୍କର ଅଭିମୁଖୀ ହୋଇ ରହିବା କଥା ସେଟା କରିବା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ମନକୁ ଆସୁଛି ମୋର ଯେ ଆଇ ହାଭ୍ ସେଡ୍ ଦିସ୍ ମେନି ଟାଇମ୍ସ ଆପଣ ଭାବୁଥିବେ ଯେ ବୋଧେ ମାନେ ବହୁତ ଗପୁଛନ୍ତି କିନ୍ତୁ କ'ଣ କରିବା ଯେ ଆପଣମାନେ ସେବାଟି ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ସେଇଟା କେମିତି ହବ ସେଇଟା ତ ଲକ୍ଷ୍ୟ ରଖୁଛି ମୁଁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରୁଛି ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ମାନେ ଯଦି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ବିରକ୍ତ ଲାଗୁଛି ଯୋଉଦିନ ଆପଣ ସେବା ନେଇଯିବେ ମୋ ଠାରୁ ସେଇଦିନ ମୁଁ ଚୁପ୍ ହେଇଯିବି ପୁଣି ଯୋଉ ସେବାଟା ଦିଆହବ ସେଇ ସେବା ଉପରେ ବକ୍ କରିବି ଅନ୍ୟ ସେବା ଗୁଡ଼ାକ ମାନେ ଓଭରଅଲ୍ ସେବା କିଛି କହିବି ନାହିଁ ଯୋଉ ଆପଣ କାଢ଼ିବେ ଏନିୱେ ଯେ କହୁଥିଲି ଯେ ଆପଣ କହିଥିଲି ଗଲା ଥର କହୁଥିଲି ଯେ ଖାଲି ପଢ଼ିଲେ କିଛି ହୁଏ ନା ତାକୁ ଆମକୁ ନିଜ ଜୀବନରେ ପ୍ରତିଫଳିତ କରିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିବା ସମସ୍ତେ ଠାକୁର କହିଲେ ଯେ ମୁଁ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ତୁମଠାରୁ ପାଣ୍ଡିତ୍ୟ ଚାହେଁ ନା ତୁମଠାରୁ ମୁଁ ମନୁଷ୍ୟତ୍ୱ ଚାହେଁ ଏଇଟା ସମସ୍ତେ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିବା ଆମେ ଏତେ ବର୍ଷ ହେଇଗଲାଣି ସଂଘ ଆମର ଆମେ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କର ସେଇ ଲକ୍ଷ୍ୟ ଦିଗରେ ସେଇ ଉଦ୍ଦେଶ୍ୟ ଦିଗରେ କେତେଟା ଅଗ୍ରସର ହେଇଛନ୍ତି ଖାଲି ଆମେ ସଂଘକୁ ଆସୁଛନ୍ତି ବହି ପଢା ହଉଛି ଶୁଣୁଛନ୍ତି କି ନିଜେ ପଢୁଛନ୍ତି ଗୀତ ବୋଲୁଛନ୍ତି ନା ଠାକୁରଙ୍କର ଆଦେଶ ଉପଦେଶକୁ ନିଜ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିଗତ ଜୀବନରେ ଲଗେଇବା ପାଇଁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରୁଛି ସେଟା ଟିକେ ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଆତ୍ମସମୀକ୍ଷା କରିବା ଯେ ଠାକୁର ଯୋଉ କହିଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ମନୁଷ୍ୟତ୍ୱ ତୁମେ ମଣିଷ ହୁଅ ପଣ୍ଡିତ ହୁଅ ଚାହୁଁଛି ମୁଁ ଚାହେଁ ନା ପାଣ୍ଡିତ୍ୟ ଚାହୁଁନି ମୁଁ ମନୁଷ୍ୟତ୍ୱ ଚାହୁଁଛି ସେଇଟା କେତେ ହେଇଛନ୍ତି ସେ ସମସ୍ତେ କିଛି ଚିନ୍ତା କରିବା ହଉ ସମୟ ହେଇଗଲା ଆମର ନେକ୍ସଟ ଯିବା ଜୟଗୁରୁ ସାରସ୍ୱତ ବାୟୁ ପ୍ରାର୍ଥନା ସଙ୍ଗୀତ ଜୟଗୁରୁ
ଜୟଗୁରୁ शरीरं यशश्चारुचित्रं धनं मेरुतुल्यं मनिश्चेन लग्नं गुरोरङ्किं पद्मे तत किं कलत्रं धनं पौत्रपौत्रादि सर्वं गृहं बान्धवं सर्वमेधादिजातम् अनिश्चेन लग्नं गुरोरङ्किं पद्मे तत किं तदाङ्गादिभेदो मुखे शास्त्रविद्या कवित्वादिगद्यं सुपद्यं करोति मनिश्चेन लग्नं गुरोरङ्किं पद्मे तत किं विदेशेषु मानि स्वदेशेषु धानि सदाचारवृत्तेषु मार्गो न जाने मनिश्चेन लग्नं गुरोरङ्किं पद्मे तत किं यमामण्डले भूपालवृन्दे सदा सेवितं यस्य पादारविन्दं मनिश्चेन लग्नं गुरोरङ्किं पद्मे तत किं यशो मे गतं दिक्युदान प्रताप जगद्भासु सर्वं करे यत्प्रसाद मनीषेण लग्नं गुरोरङ्किं पद्मे तथा किं तथा किं तथा किं तथा किं न भोगेन योगेन भावादिराजु न काण्डमुखेनैव विद्येषु चित्तं मनिश्चेन लग्नं गुरोरङ्गिपद्मे तथा किं तथा किं तथा किं तथा किम् अरानेन भासैः गेहेन कार्ये न देहे मनो वर्तते स्वनार्गे मनुष्येण लग्नं गुरोरङ्घ्रिपद्मे तथा किं तथा किं तथा किं तथा किम् गुरोरष्टकं यपते पुण्यदेहि यतिर्भूपतिर्ब्रह्मचारी च गेहि लभेद्वञ्चितार्थं पदं ब्रह्म संयम् गुरोरुक्तवाक्ये मनो यस्य लग्नम् गुरोरुक्तवाक्ये मनो यस्य लग्नम् गुरोरुक्तवाक्ये मनो यस्य लग्नम्.
Jai Guru Young Master. We'll start with attendance and then I'll ask Saraswati to explain the meaning of the song that he just sang. Aditi?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Adhyasa?
Jai Guru. Adhyasa.
Jai Guru. Okay, so Anhik?
Jai Guru. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Amshu?
Jai Guru Maharana is a boxing match.
Jai Guru. Arnav?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Aaron? Arush? Aryan?
Jai Guru Saraswati.
Jai Guru. Jamu?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Divyam?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Timmy?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Eva?
माँ जय गुरु चले क्लास से बाहर भी गई थी.
Jai Guru. Jagrat?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Naitik?
Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Pratyusha?
Jai Guru. Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Pratyush?
Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Sanvi?
Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Saraswat?
Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Sarthak? Bhakti?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Bobby?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Shilpi?
Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Shreya?
Jai Guru, she's coming.
Jai Guru. Jimmy?
Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. Simran? Jai Guru. Shrija? Suhani?
Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Yukta?
Jai Guru Ma.
Jai Guru. Is anyone I missed? You can go ahead and say something now.
Jai Guru, this is Aryan. I'm here.
Jai Guru Aryan. Anyone else? If not, I'll move forward. Saraswati, can you explain the meaning of the song that you just sang?
Jai Guru. This is the Guru Astakam, written by Bhagavan Sankaracharya.
The meaning of the Astakam is one may be very handsome, very famous, very wealthy, very knowledgeable, may have good moral character, and be doing noble things. In short, one may possess the entire wealth of the earth, but of what consequence are all these if the mind is not riveted in devotion to the lotus feet of Guru? Really, of what use is all of this? Judges.
Right. So it's the meaning of Jai Guru.
जय गुरु स्वातिमा जय गुरु खाली जस्ट बंदा नहीं कहूँ जस्ट कह चाहूली यहाँ 58 संघ सबक गीतटा आमर पब्लिश होती तार ओडिया काव्यार्थटा भी दिखाई टे भाई माँ मैंने पढ़े से जो बहुत तार सुंदर अर्थटा तार ओडियाटा संस्कृत गीतटा अच्छी ओडियाटा तार लिखाई जो समय पाइबे टे पढ़े मैंने शेष तार जो कहुच्छी कहीं से पाए गुरु पदे जति मति न पाए तार ओडिया व्याकरणटा टे पढ़े जय
Thank you, Mai, for explaining where that came from, and for all of the young aspirants, if you can read Odia, if your parents have that Sangha Seva, you can see if you can read along with them or have them read it to you, and also discuss with them the deeper meaning of that song as well. But like with many of our songs, and what's important for us to know is just it reminds us that in our spiritual journey here, we devote everything to Thakura, and like these verses say, and it explains as you learn more about them, that basically the idea is everything that we do, everything that we achieve, all of that is really nothing without our faith in our Guru. And so we're going to continue discussing that today. We've been discussing that for a while, but we always center Thakura in our thoughts, in our actions, and everything we do. And again, this song, like what we're going to read today, really expresses the importance of doing that and how that's going to help us achieve what we want out of this life. But today what we're going to do is, it's the second week, we're going to continue our discussion of Thakura's teachings on faith and his advice in the Upadesha. For those of you that have that book, now is the time to get that out. But before we get into reading today's passage from there, it's been a while since we've reminded ourselves why we're reading this and what the purpose of Thakura's advice to us always is. So just, as a reminder to ourselves, can anyone tell me, what is Thakura trying to help us achieve? Why did he write that? Why did he give all these speeches? Why did he give all of this advice to us?
Yeah, was it because he was trying to help us attain salvation?
Yeah. So what Thakura wants for us and what he's trying to help us achieve is salvation, ultimate salvation. And so that's the way that we think about that, and that's kind of a higher view of it. But ultimately, if we're going to try to explain this to someone who's really, really young, like some of our youngest young aspirants here, if we're trying to explain what this salvation is, what ultimately do we want in life? What ultimately is Thakura trying to help us achieve? How do we want to be in life? Simran, what do we want in life? How do we want to be?
We want to be like Thakura's child, teacher.
We want to be like however Thakura tells us to be. And how do we want to feel? What feeling do we always want to have? Just as humans.
we should have the feeling that we are like Sakura's child, Sakura.
Very good. And when we feel like we're Sakura's child and we feel all that way, how do we feel? What emotion do we typically feel when we're with Sakura and we feel like we're doing what he wants us to do and we're like his child?
I'm feeling like happy and like focused to Sakura.
Good, right. So, another way to kind of see that is at the very base level, obviously all of us, we've talked about what salvation is and how Sakura as our guru is leading us towards that and what all of that means. So we have different ways to think about it and conceive of that. But ultimately, if you're trying to explain it to someone that doesn't have all that vocabulary, doesn't have all this background knowledge that we've been discussing, ultimately what we're trying to achieve in life is happiness. And we realize that that's the salvation that Sakura is trying to give to us. And and ways that we pursue that is going through life the way that he tells us is correct, and having the feeling that we are his child, following his orders, and having that devotion to him. All of those help us on that path. Now, if we think about it, that root thing that we're looking for, what that salvation is, in a very simple sense, we can think of it as happiness. And when we're thinking about achieving ultimate happiness, ultimate salvation, and we think about the challenges that we face in the pursuit of that, all sorts of things happen in this world. There are all sorts of distractions and all sorts of things that make us feel negatively, that make us feel angry, sad, all sorts of negative ranges of emotion. We face all sorts of challenges. And Sakura's advice is meant for us to be able to transcend all of that in a way, or is going to help us cope with all of that until we really realize what his teachings mean and what that ultimate salvation and truth looks like. And so in today's reading, Anshu will read for us in a moment here, I want you, as we're reading through this, to think about what are the challenges that Sakura mentions as things that we have to look out for are going to be impeding our spiritual journey, our pursuit of happiness. And also, what are the things that he says are essential for us to achieve that happiness, to achieve that salvation. So, with that, let's go ahead and read this passage. We're reading pages 136 to 137 of the Upadesha. And for those of you that don't have the book, Anshu will go ahead and read that. Anshu, when you're ready.
K0, the state in action. In this world, saints and sinners, householders and ascetics, the poor and the rich, Brahmins and Chandravas, low caste people, all are journeyers on the same path. One day, all will sink by one in that great ocean of love. Therefore, there is no gain in finding difference between good and bad, insultation and admiration. Today, you consider someone the receptacle of ugliness. Tomorrow, you may bow before him on finding the manifestation of Shankara or Gauranga in him. Hence, all are equal in this world. The sages have advised to visualize all equally. The control of body, speech, and mind is the religion of a Hindu. Not to allow mind to be unsteady and restless is indeed Gurusartha, self-endeavor. Anybody having truth as the goal of their life will in no account resort to lies. Man cannot move a step forward without God's will. God always helps the innocent. Do your duties with mind at his feet. Nobody can do any harm to you. Notwithstanding it, if you face any menace, that menace will be the cause of your prosperity. Bow before God, accepting adversity as the gift of God. Desire is the cause of bondage. Desire begets sorrows. One gets at first the opposite of one desires. If one aspires to joy, he gets sorrows. If one wants cure, he suffers from disease. One intent on respect finds insult. The sages, on relinquishing all desires, only desire for self-realization. God always helps those who perform their work selflessly in the absence of any hypocrisy. But if one works to assert his ego or to earn name and fame, all his works, even noble and great, end in vain. So we have right only on action but not on fruit. If one does anything surrendering all states of action unto God, he experiences peace without any mental joy or sorrow. One will not get peace in life after death if one does not finish the burden of action here in this world. He has not considered to enjoy unceasing happiness only. One cannot manage to live well if one is perplexed by disease and fear, sorrows and suffering, dangers and torments of the world. One has to accept all these as gifts flowing from his loving and compassionate hand. A sadhaka for the entire life has to fight against the desires of mind. One has to annihilate attributes in the fire of Purusartha. There is nothing to be disappointed. Thank you.
As we normally do, let's start with any takeaways that all of us have, and then we'll move on to any questions that you all had. So what's the takeaway that you've had from this passage?
Jai, this is Satish. A takeaway I got from this passage was that if you have ego and you want something or you desire something, you get the opposite. No matter how much name or fame you get, it'll always end in vain. But when you desire self-realization, God will always help you in the path. Jai.
Yeah, you're right. So if we're putting our own ego and our own wants and we're kind of self-involved in pursuing things, then like you said, Pratish, it's not going to turn out the way that we necessarily want. But if we let go of that and we trust in our Guru Thakura, in this case you talk about God, but for us, we sub at any point where he talks about God and that pursuit as Thakura. If we put that on Thakura and we're pursuing it that way, then we're going to be much more successful. Okay. Aditi, what's the takeaway you had?
Jai Guru, a takeaway I had is that everyone in the world should be viewed the same because people's perspective on things and other people changes quickly. So you should treat everyone as equal to you, Jai Guru.
Yeah, right. So we should see everyone as equal because, and you brought a really important point here, Aditi, is our perspectives on other people and how we all see each other can change really, really quickly. And we've been discussing this in our readings of the Gita, but it means for something to be permanent and real. But if our perspectives can change so quickly on a person, we don't have full knowledge of that person. If all of these things are so mutable, so changeable, then it doesn't really make sense for us to treat people just as based on our perception of them, because ultimately, if all of these things can change, we're all on this equal playing field. We're all the same in that way, in that we're perspectives that other people will have of us that we'll have of ourselves can constantly change. So the only thing that we can do is treat all people equally in that sense, because that is something that we can manage not to have changing. Okay, so before we move on with questions that I have for all of you, are there any questions you all have for me or for each other? Okay, if there aren't any questions you all have now, of course, like always, we can, in between, if you think of anything, you can ask. But let's move into the discussions. The first one is that point on seeing everyone as equal. We've discussed that. Next, Tucker talks about He says what the religion of a Hindu is and what our pursuit as Hindus is supposed to be. So, what in this passage does Thakur say our goal as Hindus is, or our religion is really concerned about? What are we trying to do as Hindus? Suhanya?
Can you repeat the question?
So Thakur, in that first paragraph, he tells us what the religion of a Hindu is and what we should be pursuing. So what does Thakur say we as Hindus, or we on the spiritual journey that we are on with him, what is our goal? What are we trying to do?
Jaguru, our goal is to reach enlightenment.
Right, so our goal is to reach enlightenment. And how are we going to do that? I guess another way to think of it is, what can we control? And what can we work on that's going to get us closer to enlightenment? Suhani, are you still there? Yukta. Yukta, what do we, as just people answer, what do we individually have control over?
Jagru, what we have control over is how other people perceive us and how we perceive them, Jagru.
I agree. So what we have control over is how we perceive other people, how we act, how we go about things. The only thing, if we think about it, that we have true control over is ourselves, right? We can't really control what other people are doing. We can't control the weather, what's happening in the world. We can control a lot of things. But the things that we can control and that we can change and we can work on and have the power to do so all involve how we behave, act, and go about in life. And so in this passage, what Thakur says is the control of body, speech, and mind is the religion of a Hindu. We've discussed this before in how we control those three things. But basically our self-endeavor is to not allow the mind to be unsteady and restless. So how do we control our body, speech, and mind? So how do we control our actions, our thoughts, and the words that we say to better align with what Thakur tells us is our ideal, which is to treat everyone equally? What are things we've discussed before that help us control ourselves and our actions and our thoughts? Sanvi, what sorts of things help us control our actions, thoughts, feelings?
Jaguru, to be truthful to yourself and Sakura, and show love and compassion to everybody. Jaguru.
So one thing we do is we immerse ourselves in practices that Thakur has told us about, so showing love and compassion, being truthful, and monitoring ourselves in doing so. So, being very aware that I'm trying to be truthful, and then watching your actions through the day. Am I doing that? How do I extend love and compassion? That kind of deciding what value you want to pursue that day, the yamas and yamas, and choosing one, and then kind of going with that and focusing on that. That's one thing we can do. How else can we work on changing our thought processes or controlling our thoughts and our actions? Naitik?
Jaguru, can you repeat the question?
What's another way that we can control our actions and our thoughts? Or work on gaining control of that?
Jaguru, we could always be like kind to others, so like our actions can be good, and then like we can always like sit or like meditate, so like you won't think of sad things. Jaguru.
Right. So a lot of you have discussed and so that you've done in the past, you've tried things like meditation, and that's a practice. If we do it in the ways that Dr. Tucker explains in various places, that can help us steady our mind and help us control as we come in. But on the action things, also important for us to choose to be kind and choose to do the right actions in any situation, and just think through it, even if we don't completely control it. To start with controlling actions and work on controlling thoughts through things like meditation. Meditation, choosing kind words, being truthful, all of these are things and work on our thoughts. Jagru, does someone have a question or something to add? Okay. So, moving forward, then Hakuto goes on to say in this passage that, we've talked about this before, and we talked about this earlier here. If we take ego out of the equation and we pursue things more Hakuto and kind of hand that over to him, then we're going to be a lot more successful. And in here, he says something about adversity and challenges. How does Hakuto say that we should perceive adversity and challenges in our lives? How should we think of the challenges and troubles that we have in life if we are giving our actions unto him? Divya? Divya, how should we perceive challenges in our lives according to Hakuto? Divya, are you there? Arnav, how should we perceive challenges in our lives?
Jaiguru, I think that you should just think that they're gifts from Thakura, and you should just then just solve them. Jaiguru.
Right. So Thakura says in a couple different places in this passage that when we have adversity, we should think of it as a gift or something that we should accept and feel grateful for, or to not necessarily see it as something that should trouble us, right? If we receive it as a gift, we are accepting that it's happening and we're able to move forward without really dwelling on it too much. So when we have things happening in our lives that we don't like, that make us feel uncomfortable, that make us upset, that aren't necessarily what we wanted, how would it be helpful for us to change our perspective to think of it as a gift or something given to us by Hakuto? How would changing our perspective to make it a gift from Hakuto help us get through those challenges? Aryan?
Jaigu, I think having a positive mindset is really important. And
think challenges as an opportunity to progress on our spiritual path will help us to deal better with those challenges instead of getting us down. Do you agree?
No, you're right. So if we reframe and think of it instead of being set and dwelling on, oh, this is a terrible thing happening to me, this is, and just kind of dealing with all the negative aspects, by doing that little shift in your brain and saying, this is a gift from Thakura, whatever this is happening, he has given to me, it might be a burden, whatever it is, it's coming from him. And when you do that shift, like the diary, you can switch thinking more positively about it. And you can shift to either the problem solving, or if it's just a circumstance that you have to get through, you'll be able to get through that a lot easier. The other thing that this helps us with is if we think of it as coming from Thakura, the same way that we think that when we dedicate our actions and think of ourselves as doing Thakura's will, we become more successful in doing that because we take ourselves out of the equation. If we're thinking of Thakura also as things given to us by Thakura and we're relying on him in that way, we're also able to take ourselves out of that equation. And so it's easier to think of it in positive terms, or at least neutral terms, to get through whatever the challenge or barriers that we have in our lives. Because, again, we're attributing it to Thakura, and we're trusting in him to get us through that. That's easier said than done, but that is something that can be helpful. So, as we think about that, think about how do we dedicate all of these negative things or even positive pursuits to Thakura to kind of be able to weather this fast range. What are ways that can help us or help remind us that that's what we're doing and help us center Thakura in all these actions and things that are happening around us? Jeremy, how do we accept this, and how do we remind ourselves that we're trying to change our perspective and think of everything that's happening as us either doing actions from Thakura or things happening to us as a gift from Thakura?
Joey, could you repeat the question? I was having trouble hearing you at the end.
Okay. Very good. So when we're reading all of this, right, Thakura is talking about this perspective shift where we're thinking of the actions that we do, and instead of us doing that for whatever our pursuits are, to dedicate our actions and what they do to Thakura, that he's doing it, things like that. Or that the troubles and all of these things that are happening to us are, if we reframe to think of those as gifts from Thakura, what sorts of things can we do to help us remind ourselves to do this reframing in our minds?
Jaguru, I think some things you can do to learn from our mistakes and to become a better person, like Thakura was talking about in this passage. I think if we write down what we're doing wrong and trying to reflect on it every single night to see what we can do to improve, that could definitely help. I think you can also mention to Thakura to guide you on the right path and make sure that you don't make those same mistakes again and to move forward in your life. Joseph?
Right. So things like journaling or just taking some time every day for self-reflection can help us spot these patterns of when our perspective is skewed. And if we take the care to observe ourselves and observe how we're thinking of things and what we're doing wrong, we'll also be better able to identify places where we can think, oh, I'm not necessarily, I'm putting my ego into what I'm doing. I should remind myself that these actions are through Thakura, or I'm feeling very negatively about this. Let me change my perspective and think of it as a gift from Thakura. And then that can help us move forward So with this, we're out of time. And next is Sister Honey, when you're ready. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. I wanted to start off saying how I'm so grateful to have this opportunity of sharing my thoughts and feelings with you all. I've been doing virtual school ever since COVID started. In the beginning of this experience, I was so excited to try something new. I was excited about waking up later and not having to go on the bus so early to get to school. Now, I've been doing online school for around 2 years. My thoughts have changed a lot since the beginning of this experience. I always think about how I miss my friends and how antisocial I've become just sitting in my room doing work. It is nice not having to wake up so early, but I really miss socializing with my class and friends. It's harder to talk and make friends on Zoom. I'm still doing virtual school because COVID is still there and making so many people sick. COVID rates are slowly decreasing due to the vaccine, which makes me feel more protected. It's scary how there's so many variants, but praying to Thakura really helps. I'm so thankful for Thakura always guiding me and looking out for me. I'm so grateful for Thakura and my family for always being there for me. My family always makes me smile during these hard times. One thing that happened since the pandemic is that I've gotten really close with my family, and I spend a lot of time with them. Another good thing is that I've been really getting into painting. Painting always helps me feel free. It's like when I paint, I'm in imaginary land, and I can do anything I want. I feel so happy when I paint. I really hope that 2022 will be a better year for us all. I know Thakura is always there for me, so I really want to learn about Thakura and stories about him. Here in this puja session, I always get to hear about these amazing stories about God and learn so much. I'm so thrilled that I get to be a part of this young aspirant. I always learn a lesson about life and ways for me to be a better person with all these stories I get to read. I also love hearing about everyone's thoughts when we have conversations. It really helps me learn and grow as a person. And find my ways to show appreciation to Thakura. Jai Guru.
जय गुरु आज श्री श्री ठाकुर कृपारू मत भाव विनिमय सेवा मिली भाव विनिमय कौन कही भावुची स्मृति मंदिर जो भावना आसला मन से विषय किसी कहना चाहूँगी लास्ट डिसेम्बर रे आम समस्ते ओडिशा जाइलु भुवनेश्वर आम बाहरलु स्मृति मंदिर जाकि ठाकुर दर्शन करने मोर धारणा था कि स्मृति मंदिर रे ठाकुर स्मृति रे किसी जिनस एमती अच्छी पुण्य संघर थी मत भाई मान शुणी सब स्मृति मंदिर जाकि आसती कहते ठाकुर ये सब जिन रखाई तेणु से उद्देश्य मुझे स्मृति मंदिर को जाए से दिन दुईटी संघर पाली थाए तेणु पूरा बहुत भिड़ थाए स्मृति मंदिर रे आम समस्त पहुंचला पर ठाकुर को प्रणाम कलु से प्रसाद पाइलु से दिन एत भिड़ थाए सब भाई पूरा व्यस्त जना पड़ता तेणु मोर जो उद्देश्य थी मन कि केमती श्री श्री ठाकुर स्मृति जहाँ अच्छी किसी देखापी सब भाई और माँ को एत व्यस्त देखी क्या मो मन कथा किसी कही पारे ना कि मन में भारी दुख आए कि केमती स्मृति मंदिर टे देखापी इच्छा थी ठाकुर कौन अच्छी कि देखिपारे मन में बहुत ग्लानि भी आए कि एत दूर आसली यही उद्देश्य आसली किंतु किसी भी देखिपारे ना मुझे भावुची से जड़े माँ मत पचर डाकिले कहले अमेरिका संघर क्यों भाई आसछन्ति कि कहली हाँ माँ मुझे मत से कहले तुम्हें विश्वजित राय भाई को जान कहली हाँ सी आम संघर से परिचय दे कहले सी होती विश्वजित राय भाई माँ मुझे माँ जय गुरु माँ मत कहले तुम्हें ठाकुर जिनस देखी तो मुझे पूरा हठात की चमकी पड़ली मत लगला जमी कि मुझे ही विषय ही भावुली कि केमी मुझे ठाकुर जिनस देखिपारे ना मन में बड़ दुख भी होता माँ मत सांगे सांगे कहले मो पचे पचे आस मुझे पचे पचे चलली ସିଧା ମତେ ନେଇକି ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ଛିଡା କରିଦେଲେ, କହିଲେ ସେଇ ଦେଖ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସୁରବାଳା ମା ଠାକୁରଙ୍କୁ ଅଳତା ଦେଇ ସେଥିରେ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କର ପଦଚିହ୍ନ ନେଇଥିଲେ ସେଇଠି ହଉଛି ଠାକୁରଙ୍କ ପଦଚିହ୍ନ। ତାପରେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ଶ୍ରୀ ଗୁରୁଦେବଙ୍କ ପଦଚିହ୍ନକୁ ପ୍ରଣାମ କଲି। ଆଉ ରାସ୍ତା ସାରା ମୁଁ ଖାଲି ସେ ବିଷୟ ଭାବୁଥାଏ କି ମୁଁ ସେଦିନ ଏତେ ମନ ଦୁଃଖରେ ଫେରି ଆସିଥିଲି, କେମିତି କଣ ଭାବୁଥିଲି କି ଠାକୁରଙ୍କର କଣ ଏତିକି ଟିକେ କୃପା ହେଲା ନାହିଁ, ମତେ ଟିକେ ସେଇଠି କଣ ଜିନିଷ ଅଛି ଦେଖିବା ପାଇଁ, ଆଉ ଯଦି କୌଣସି ଭାଇ କି ମା ମୋର ଚିହ୍ନାରେ ଥାନ୍ତେ ତାହେଲେ ମେ ବି ଭଲ ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା। କିନ୍ତୁ ଏଇ ବିଷୟ ଜାଣିକି ବୋଧେ ଠାକୁର ସେଇ ମାଙ୍କ ଥ୍ରୋରେ ମତେ ଆସିକି ଠାକୁରଙ୍କ ପଦ ଦର୍ଶନ କରାଇଲେ। ତେଣୁ ଏଇଥିରେ ସବୁ ଏଇ ସବୁ ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ କଥାରେ ବି ଶ୍ରୀ ଶ୍ରୀ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କ କୃପା କେମିତି ଉପଲବ୍ଧି କରିହୁଏ, ସେଇ ମନେ ମନେ ସେଇ କଥା ହିଁ କେବଳ ଭାବୁଛି ଆଉ ପ୍ରାର୍ଥନା କରୁଛି ଯେମିତି ଏହିପରି ଠାକୁରଙ୍କ କୃପା ଉପଲବ୍ଧି ହଉଥାଉ ଏବଂ ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ସବୁବେଳେ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କ ସେବକ ହୋଇ ରହିଥାଉ। ଏତିକିରେ ଭାବ ବିନିମୟ ଶେଷ କରୁଛି। ଜୟ ଗୁରୁ।
ଜୟ ଗୁରୁ। ପ୍ରାଣର ଠାକୁର ଆମର ସଭାପତି ମହୋଦୟ, ଭାଇ ମା ମାନେ ଆଉ ପିଲାମାନେ, ଆଜି ମୋର ପାଳି ଅଛି ଆଉ ଭାବ ବିନିମୟ ସେବା 2 ବର୍ଷ ହେଲାଣି। ବିଶ୍ୱଜିତ ଭାଇ ଯୋଉଦିନ ପାଳି ମତେ ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ଟାଇମ୍ ଆସାଇନ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, both of them have been middle of May, ମୁଁ ସେ ସମୟରେ ପାଳି ନେବା ପାଇଁ ମୋର ଯୋଗ୍ୟତା ରହୁନି। ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଇୟର ଝିଅ ବାହାଘର ଥିଲା, ଏ ବର୍ଷ ଆର ଝିଅର ଗ୍ରାଜୁଏସନ ଅଛି। ସୋ ଯାହା ହଉ ସିଏ ଚେଞ୍ଜ କରିକି ଆଜି ଡେଟ୍ଟା ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି, ସେଥିପାଇଁ ମୁଁ ସଂଘ ନିକଟରେ କୃତଜ୍ଞ। ଆଜି ଯାହା ସବୁ ପଢା ହେଲା ତା ବିଷୟରେ ତ ବ୍ରଜ ଭାଇ କିଛିଟା କହିଲେ, ସୋ ଆଇ ଏମ୍ ନଟ୍ ଗୋଇଂ ଟୁ ଗୋ ଇନଟୁ ଦୋଜ୍। ଗୋଟିଏ ଜିନିଷ ବିଷୟ କହିକିରି ଗୋଟିଏ ଅନୁଭୂତି କହିବି। ସେ ଜିନିଷଟି ହେଲା, କିଛି ଦିନ ତଳେ ଆମର ଡିସ୍କସନ ଚାଲିଥିଲା, ଆଇ ୱାଜ୍ କୋଅର୍ଡିନେଟିଂ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍। ତ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସିଲା ଯେ ଆମର ସ୍ପିରିଚୁଆଲ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରେସନଟା ଜାଣିବା କେମିତି। ସୋ ମୁଁ ହଠାତ୍ ମନକୁ ଆସିଲା ଯେ ମନଟା ସବୁବେଳେ ଆନନ୍ଦରେ ଭରିଯିବ। ସେଠି ଆମର ଜଣେ ମା ଜଣେ କହିଲେ, ଆଚ୍ଛା ଦ୍ୱାଦଶ ଅଧ୍ୟାୟରେ ଯୋଉ ଗୀତାରେ ଯୋଉ ଅଛି ଭକ୍ତର ଲକ୍ଷଣ, ସେଗୁଡା ବି କଣ ହେଲେ ଜଣା ପଡିବନି? ମୁଁ ତାଙ୍କୁ କହିଥିଲି ହଁ। ପରେ ଚିନ୍ତା କଲି ସେଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ବହିରେ ମୁଁ ପଢିଛି, ନାରଦ ଭକ୍ତି ସୂତ୍ରର ଭାଷ୍ୟରେ ପଢିଛି, ଶିବାନନ୍ଦ ଚିନ୍ମୟାନନ୍ଦଙ୍କ ଭାଷ୍ୟ। ସେମାନେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ସେ ଲକ୍ଷଣ ଗୁଡାକ ହଉଛି ପ୍ରିଲିମିନାରୀ, ବିଫୋର ୟୁ ଗୋ ଇନଟୁ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍। ଏବେ କିଛି ଦିନ ତଳେ ଗୃହାସନରେ ଉପଦେଶ ପଢିଲା ବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ପ୍ରତି ଆସିଲା ଲକ୍ଷ୍ୟ। ଠାକୁର କହିଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ତୁମମାନଙ୍କ ମଧ୍ୟରେ ମୋ ପରି ଜୀବନ ମୁକ୍ତିର ଆସ୍ୱାଦନ ଲାଭ କରୁଅଛ, ଏକଥା କିପରି ବୁଝିବ ଜାଣ? ଜୀବନ ମୁକ୍ତିର ମାନେ ବେସିକାଲି ଆପଣ ଯାଇ ପହଞ୍ଚି ଗଲେଣି ସେ ଜାଗାରେ। ଯୋଡ଼ିଏ ଜିନିଷ କହିଛନ୍ତି, ସେତେବେଳେ ଦେଖିବ ଦେହରୁ ଜଡ଼ତ୍ୱ ବୋଲି ଜିନିଷଟି ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ରୂପେ ବିଦୃତ ହୋଇଯାଇଛି, ଆଉ ସେତେବେଳେ ଆନନ୍ଦ ଉଦ୍ଦୀପନାରେ ତୁମ ଭିତରଟା ସର୍ବଦା ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ହୋଇ ଉଠିବ। କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରି ଯେତେବେଳେ କ୍ଳାନ୍ତି ଆସିବ ନାହିଁ କିମ୍ବା ମନ ସେଥିରେ ଆଚ୍ଛନ୍ନ ହୋଇପଡ଼ିବ ନାହିଁ, କର୍ମର କୌଶଳ ଇତ୍ୟାଦି ବୁଝିକିରି ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ନିର୍ଲିପ୍ତ ହେବା ସମ୍ଭବ, ତାହା ସମର୍ପଣ ପଥରେ ଗତି କଲେ ବୁଝିପାରିବ। ଏଟା ଉତ୍ତିଷ୍ଠିତ ଜାଗ୍ରତ ଚାପ୍ଟରରେ ଅଛି, ବୃହତ୍ତର ଜୀବନ ବୋଲି ସେକ୍ସନରେ। ତେଣୁ ଠାକୁର କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯୋଡ଼ିଏ ଜିନିଷ, ଯେତେ ତାଙ୍କର ସେବା କରିବେ ମନରେ କୌଣସି ଅବସାଦ ଆସିବନି, ଆଉ ତାପରେ ମନଟା ସବୁବେଳେ ଆନନ୍ଦରେ ଭରପୁର ହେଇକି ରହିଥିବ। ମୁଁ ସେ ଆନନ୍ଦ ଭରପୁରଟା ସବୁବେଳେ ମନେ ରଖିଥାଏ। ଆରଟା ବି ତ ଚାଲେ, ସେଇଟା ଦିଟା ସାମୂହିକ ଭାବରେ ହଉଛି, ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଭାବରେ ମୋର ହେଇପାରିନି। କେତେବେଳେ କେମିତି କଣ ଗୋଟେ ଅଫିସ କାମ ହେଇଗଲା କି ସଂଘରେ କିଛି ଗୋଟେ ଦେଖିଲି, ହଠାତ୍ ମନଟା ଟିକେ ଲାଗିଯାଉଛି, ବଟ୍ ତାର ପର ମୁହୂର୍ତ୍ତରେ କିଏ ଯେମିତି ଚେତେଇ ଦଉଛି, why, what's your goal? So once you start thinking about what's your goal, lot of those things go away, becomes very secondary, very minor. So ଆନନ୍ଦଟେ ଘର ଭିତରଟା ପୁରି ଯାଉଛି। ଗୋଟିଏ ଅନୁଭୂତି କଥା କହିବି, କାହିଁକିନା ସମୟ ହେଇଗଲାଣି ବହୁତ। ଆମର ଆଜି 3 ଜଣ ଥିଲୁ ଆମେ ପାଳିଆ, ତେଣୁ ତା ପାଇଁ ଟିକେ ଟାଇମ୍ ଲାଗେ। ସେଇଠି ହେଲା, ଆମକୁ କୁହାହେଇଛି, ଆପଣ ଜୀବନୀ ଯଦି ପଢିଥିବେ ଜାଣିଥିବେ, ତା ଦେହରେ ଅଛି ଶୋଇଲା ବେଳେ ନାମ ନେଇକି ଶୋଇବେ, ତାଙ୍କ ପାଦପଦ୍ମ ଦେଖିକିରି ନାମ ନେଇକି ଶୋଇବେ, ଏମିତି ଆମକୁ କୁହାହେଇଛି। ସେଇଟା ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିସ୍ କଲେ ତାର ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ଫଳ ମିଳେ। ଏବେ 3-4 ଦିନ ତଳ କଥାଟି କହୁଛି, ଆଉ ଅନ୍ୟ ସମୟ କଥା କହିଲେ ବହୁତ ସମୟ ପଳେଇବ। 3-4 ଦିନ ତଳେ ହଠାତ୍ ଅଫିସରେ ଟିକେ ବହୁତ ଗଣ୍ଡଗୋଳ ଚାଲିଛି, ଲାଷ୍ଟ ମନ୍ଥ ଆଣ୍ଡ ହାଫ୍ ଅର୍ ସୋ। It hasn't really gone away. So sometimes I wake up middle of the night and check my emails and stuff like that. Dine rati adhare semti, I think it is Tuesday, Monday night, Tuesday morning, most likely. Nido pray 2टा खंड बेलू भांगी गला किस समय अपेक्षा कली देखिली चेक चेक करके सोया को चेष्टा कला को निद हलानी. So I went back to हमरो नाम नवा कथा नाम नहीं चली केतबले निद होइछि मो जानिनी किंतु नाम नहींछि आ से निद हवा पर्सनटा मन आसुनी जेतो निद भांगी इट इज अराउंड 4 o'clock. मु 4:30 बेले उठिया चेष्टा करे पूर्व सब निद भांगी जाए. मोर अभ्यास है जदि निद भांगिला 10 मिनट 15 मिनट अध घंटा पूर्व से 15 मिनट अध घंटा से बेड रहीक नाम निए 4:30 बेले एक्चुअली उठे. दैट्स माय स्केड्यूल. से दिन जल्दी उठ जाइए निद हो नाला नाम नौ निद ता भर के निश्चय कहीं मुझे जानी जिते निद भांगिला से मोर नाम चली नाम बंद होनी सेमती जमी नियंती सेमती शोक रही नाम चली मनटा पूरा आनंद रे भर्ती हो गला जे नामटा रोचे छाड़ी जाऊनी से कृपा से निर्देश करके शोयापी आम सब यहाँ कर निश्चय तार फल आमको मिल. तेणु आज भाव विनिमय मुझे सारुची ठाकुर पाखे प्रार्थना से जमती आमको दिगरे गति करने प्रेरणा दिंतु आ बाट कढ़े नियंतु. जय गुरु जय गुरु.
जय गुरु. आज द्वितीय अधिवेशन से शेष
ज्ञान भाई
जय गुरु. प्राण ठाकुर भाई भाई मैंने ठाकुर आमर पूजा ए शेष होगा जाऊँगी. आपण जय गुरु कीर्तन पर विश्राम गृह विजय हे. आपण को मध्याह्न भोग निमंत्रण नवेदन कर विश्राम ग्रहण करेंगे. आज एकादशी आपण को 3टा बेले विश्राम उठे आमे किसी नैवेद्य दे फिर आपण को आज विश्राम देव. काली सकाल 6टा बेले 6:30 बेले नित्य पूजा आपण को निमंत्रण जनाऊँ. जय गुरु.
जय गुरु. अध्यापक Aaron, I invite Sri Thakur and all young aspirants and their parents for the next puja to be held on March 20th. जय गुरु.
जय गुरु. प्राण ठाकुर बंधु भाई आरण आ मोर पाइसवा अच्छी मार्च 20 तारीख समस्त भाई माँ पिला निमंत्रण जनाऊँ. समस्ते पूजा जोगदी पूजा सत्यांत करेंगे. जय जय गुरु. श्री श्री ठाकुर अपार करुणा आज सुहानी ज्ञान भाई और मत सेवा पाली सुजोग मिलता. आज संघ पूजा ज्ञात अज्ञात जहाँ किसी भी त्रुटि हो जाती श्री श्री ठाकुर महाराज समस्त भाई माँ और यंग एस्पिरेंट मान निकट में क्षमा प्रार्थना करुअछि. पुनर्बार सेवार सुजोग देवाई श्री श्री ठाकुर को प्रार्थना करुअछि. जय गुरु.
जय
Hare